Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Harvey, and I want to tell you something that might change the way you see love forever. People say men are simple, that all we care about is looks or fun or the chase. But let me tell you the truth from a man's heart. Men don't fall in love unless something happens first. There is always a moment, a trigger, a realization that shifts everything inside us. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. Sometimes it's so quiet that even we don't notice it right away. But when it happens, it changes how we see you, how we treat you, and how we see our future. Men connect love with purpose and emotional safety because for many men, love is not only a feeling but a state of alignment between their heart, their mind, and their direction in life. A man may admire a woman's beauty, laugh at her jokes, and enjoy her company, yet still feel emotionally distant if he does not sense that being with her supports who he is trying to become. Purpose is the internal compass most men are raised to follow. From a young age, they are taught that their value is measured by what they build, fix, provide, or achieve. Because of that conditioning, when a relationship feels like chaos, pressure, or constant doubt, he instinctively pulls back, not always because he wants to leave, but because his mind interprets emotional tension as a threat to his mission. When love feels peaceful, encouraging, and steady, however, something shifts inside him, and he begins to associate that woman with clarity rather than confusion. Emotional safety is what allows his guarded nature to soften. Society often trains men to hide fierce sadness and uncertainty, so they grow used to carrying silent weight. When he meets a woman who listens without interrupting, who understands without mocking, and who reassures without controlling, he experiences relief that is rare in his world. That relief is powerful because it tells him he does not have to perform or pretend in order to be accepted. In that space, he can admit mistakes, share dreams, and reveal worries he shows no one else. The moment he realizes he can be fully seen and still respected is the moment his feelings start turning into something deeper than attraction. Purpose and safety together create emotional gravity. Purpose tells him where he is going, while safety tells him who he can be while getting there. If either one is missing, his heart hesitates. A man who feels inspired but unsafe will keep his distance to protect himself, and a man who feels safe but uninspired may stay for comfort yet struggle to fall deeply. But when a woman supports his ambitions while also protecting his vulnerability, she becomes more than a partner. She becomes a place of peace in his mind. He starts to think about her when making decisions, not out of obligation, but because her presence feels naturally connected to his path. He values her opinions because they do not belittle his vision, and he values her presence because it calms his storms. This combination is what transforms affection into attachment. He begins to invest time, attention, and effort, not because he is forced, but because he wants to build something lasting with the person who makes him feel both driven and understood. Many people misunderstand men and assume they fear commitment, when in truth most men fear losing themselves. When he senses that loving her will not cost him his identity, but will instead strengthen it, love stops feeling risky and starts feeling right. That is when his loyalty deepens, his focus sharpens, and his intentions become clear. He is no longer confused about his emotions because purpose and peace are standing in the same place, and that place is beside her. At that point, his actions begin to match his feelings because certainty replaces hesitation. He calls when he says he will, shows up when he promises to, and listens when she speaks because her voice matters to him. The relationship stops feeling like a test and starts feeling like a partnership where both people are building rather than battling. He becomes protective not out of control but out of care, and he becomes consistent not out of duty but out of desire. The peace he feels with her becomes something he does not want to lose, so he guards it with loyalty and effort. This is why emotional safety is not weakness to a man but strength, because it gives him the courage to love openly. Without that feeling, he keeps part of himself hidden, even if he stays physically close. With it, he offers his thoughts, his plans, his fears, and his hopes without being pushed. He does not fall all at once, but step by step his trust proves that his heart is safe. And when a man knows his heart is safe, and his purpose is supported, his love becomes steady, sincere, and enduring, because he is not just feeling something, he is choosing it every single day with confidence and pride in the woman who stands beside him, encouraging his journey and believing in the man he is becoming. He holds her closer not from fear of losing her, but from gratitude for finding her. And he reminds himself often that real love began the moment he felt both driven and safe with her. That changed everything inside him forever completely. Respect and appreciation trigger deeper feelings in a man in ways that are often overlooked because many people assume love grows mainly from attraction or excitement. Yet for most men, admiration is the emotional fuel that turns interest into devotion. A man can be drawn to beauty or charm instantly, but those feelings can fade just as quickly if he senses that he is not valued. Respect speaks to a man's identity. It tells him that who he is, what he does, and how he shows up in the world actually matter. When a woman genuinely respects him, not through flattery, but through consistent acknowledgement of his effort, character, and intentions, something shifts inside his emotional core. He begins to feel seen rather than judged, accepted rather than tested, and that sense of acceptance lowers his defenses. Many men walk through life feeling like they must constantly prove themselves, whether at work, in society, or even among friends. Because of that pressure, they rarely experience spaces where they can simply exist without being evaluated. When a woman becomes that space, her presence starts to feel peaceful rather than demanding, and peace is one of the strongest emotional magnets for a man's heart. Appreciation deepens that effect because it reassures him that his actions are meaningful. Men often express care through what they do rather than what they say. He may fix something, solve a problem, offer help, or quietly handle responsibilities, and when those efforts are noticed, it strengthens his emotional connection. Appreciation tells him that his contributions are not invisible. It confirms that he is making a positive impact in her life. That realization builds pride, and pride tied to a relationship creates attachment. The more appreciated he feels, the more he wants to give, not out of obligation, but because he enjoys the feeling of being valued. This cycle becomes powerful. Respect inspires effort. Effort invites appreciation. Appreciation deepens feeling, and deeper feeling increases commitment. Over time, he begins associating her presence with affirmation rather than criticism. And that association makes his emotions grow roots instead of drifting like temporary attraction. Disrespect, on the other hand, has the opposite effect even when everything else seems right. A man may still care, but if he repeatedly feels belittled, dismissed, or compared, his heart slowly retreats to protect itself. It is not always loud arguments that cause this withdrawal. Sometimes it is subtle gestures like sarcasm, constant correction, or joking at his expense. Those moments accumulate and send a message that he is not enough. When a man feels inadequate in a relationship, love struggles to grow because insecurity replaces emotional openness. He may stay physically present yet become emotionally distant, not because he wants to disconnect, but because he senses he is not truly accepted. Respect prevents that distance because it reassures him that he does not have to compete for approval. Instead, he can relax into the relationship knowing he is valued as he is. Another reason respect and appreciation affect men so deeply is that they strengthen trust. Trust is not built only through loyalty, but through emotional treatment. When he sees that she speaks to him kindly even when upset, supports him in front of others, and believes in his abilities, he interprets those actions as proof that she is on his side. Feeling that someone is genuinely on his side is one of the strongest emotional bonds a man can experience. It creates a partnership mindset rather than a performance mindset. Instead of trying to impress her, he starts wanting to build with her. Instead of worrying about mistakes, he feels safe learning and growing. That sense of partnership encourages vulnerability, and vulnerability is where love deepens. A man rarely opens his heart where he feels judged, but he opens naturally where he feels honored. Respect also communicates admiration, and admiration is incredibly powerful to a man's emotions because it aligns with his instinct to protect and provide. When he feels admired, he feels capable. When he feels capable, he feels confident. Confidence makes him emotionally generous, more expressive, more affectionate, and more willing to invest his time and energy. He begins to prioritize the relationship because it becomes a place where he feels strong rather than insufficient. This does not mean he needs constant praise. In fact, exaggerated compliments can feel insincere. What truly touches him are genuine moments when she notices his effort, thanks him for his presence, or acknowledges his intentions. Those small, sincere recognitions often mean more than grand romantic gestures because they feel real. Over time, respect and appreciation create emotional security, and emotional security is the soil where lasting love grows. Without it, feelings remain shallow, easily shaken by conflict or doubt. With it, feelings become steady and resilient. A man who feels respected does not just stay because he loves more because he stays. His loyalty strengthens, his patience increases, and his willingness to work through challenges becomes stronger. He does not see the relationship as something fragile, but as something worth protecting. This is why respect is not a bonus in love for a man, but a foundation. Attraction may start the story, chemistry may add excitement, but respect is what makes his heart settle and say, "This is where I belong." And when appreciation is present alongside respect, his emotions do not simply exist, they expand, filling him with a quiet certainty that what he feels is real, lasting, and worth giving his whole heart to. Emotional timing matters more than attraction, because attraction can happen in an instant while emotional readiness develops over time. And for many men, the difference between fleeting interest and genuine love is not who she is, but where he is internally when he meets her. A man can meet a woman who is beautiful, kind, intelligent, and perfectly compatible with him, yet still not fall in love if his mind is distracted, his life is unstable, or his priorities are focused elsewhere. This does not mean she is lacking or that the connection is weak. It means his emotional clock is not aligned with the moment. Timing influences how deeply he allows himself to feel, because feelings require space, and if his life is crowded with pressure, confusion, or unfinished personal battles, his heart may not have room to fully open. Attraction might still exist, chemistry might still spark, and interest might still show, but love needs more than sparks. It needs emotional availability, and availability depends on timing. Many men are raised to believe they must build themselves before they can truly give themselves. They often feel responsible for stabilizing their careers, their finances, or their sense of direction before committing emotionally. When a man feels incomplete in his own life, he may unconsciously hold back his heart because he believes he should not offer something he has not yet secured within himself. Even if he meets someone extraordinary, he may hesitate, not because he doubts her worth, but because he doubts his readiness. Inside, he may think she deserves the best version of him. And if he feels he has not yet become that version, he resists falling deeply. This internal hesitation can be mistaken for disinterest, yet in many cases it is actually self-protection mixed with a desire to be worthy. Timing also affects perception. When a man is emotionally ready, he notices qualities he might have overlooked before. Traits like patience, warmth, loyalty, and emotional intelligence suddenly become deeply attractive because he is no longer chasing excitement alone, he is seeking stability and meaning. The same woman he once casually admired could become the woman he deeply loves simply because his perspective has matured. This is why some men fall in love later than others or fall unexpectedly after years of knowing someone. It is not always about the person changing. Often it is about his internal world evolving to a point where he can recognize what truly matters. Emotional readiness sharpens his vision. He begins to see long-term potential where before he only saw temporary enjoyment. Attraction is powerful, but it is often impulsive, driven by surface impressions or immediate chemistry. Emotional timing, however, is rooted in mental clarity. When a man reaches a stage where he understands himself, his goals, and what he wants from life, his feelings become more intentional. He does not just react to attraction, he evaluates connection. He pays attention to how she makes him feel over time rather than how she makes him feel in a moment. He listens more carefully, observes more closely, and considers more seriously. This shift from impulse to intention is what allows love to grow strong instead of fading quickly. Without the right timing, attraction can burn bright and disappear fast. With the right timing, even a gentle spark can turn into something steady and lasting. Another reason timing matters is that emotional readiness determines vulnerability. Love requires openness, and openness requires courage. If a man is healing from past hurt, disappointment, or betrayal, he may instinctively guard himself. He might enjoy someone's company, yet keep emotional distance because part of him fears repeating pain. Until he processes those past experiences and regains confidence in his ability to trust, his heart remains partially closed. But when he reaches a stage where he feels secure enough to risk feeling again, his capacity for love expands. The same gestures that once felt risky begin to feel safe. The same emotional closeness that once felt overwhelming begins to feel comforting. Timing transforms fear into readiness and caution into willingness. Life circumstances also shape emotional timing. Stress, career transitions, family responsibilities, or personal uncertainty can occupy a man's mental energy so heavily that romance becomes secondary. Even if he meets someone wonderful, his focus may remain on solving immediate challenges rather than building emotional bonds. Once those pressures ease and his life stabilizes, his attention naturally shifts. Suddenly, he has the emotional bandwidth to invest, to listen, to connect, and to care more deeply. What changed was not the woman, but his capacity to receive and return love. Emotional timing is therefore not just psychological, but situational. It reflects the overall state of his life and whether he feels balanced enough to let someone into it. When timing and attraction finally align, that is when love tends to feel effortless. He does not question his feelings constantly or second guess his intentions because internally he feels ready. His actions become consistent, his communication becomes clear, and his interest becomes steady. He no longer treats the connection like a temporary experience, but like something worth protecting and nurturing. This alignment creates emotional certainty, and certainty is what allows love to deepen without resistance. Instead of wondering whether he should fall, he realizes he already has. And that realization usually comes quietly, not in a dramatic moment, but in a calm awareness that being with her feels right at the exact time his heart is prepared to accept it. Trust is the foundation before commitment, because for many men, commitment is not simply a romantic decision, but a personal investment that affects their identity, their peace of mind, and their sense of stability. A man may feel attraction quickly and even develop strong affection, yet he will hesitate to fully commit if trust has not been firmly established. This hesitation is rarely about fear of love itself. More often it is about fear of uncertainty. Trust removes uncertainty, and when uncertainty fades, his confidence in the relationship grows. Without trust, he feels like he is stepping onto unstable ground, unsure whether the connection will support his weight or collapse beneath him. With trust, he feels steady, and that steadiness allows his emotions to deepen instead of remaining guarded. For a man, trust is closely tied to emotional security. He needs to feel that his vulnerability will not be used against him, that his honesty will not be punished, and that his loyalty will not be taken for granted. When he senses these reassurances through consistent actions rather than promises, his heart begins to relax. Relaxation is significant because many men are conditioned to remain alert in relationships, watching for signs of disrespect, dishonesty, or betrayal. This vigilance can make them appear distant or cautious, yet it is often a protective instinct rather than indifference. The moment he realizes he does not have to stay guarded, he starts letting down emotional walls he may have kept up for years. Each wall that falls brings him closer to genuine commitment, because commitment requires openness, and openness cannot exist without trust. Consistency is one of the strongest builders of trust in a man's eyes. Words may spark interest, but repeated behavior shapes belief. When he sees that her actions match what she says, his confidence in her character strengthens. If she promises support and shows it, promises honesty and proves it, promises loyalty and lives it, those patterns form a sense of reliability that he begins to depend on. Reliability is deeply attractive to a man who is considering commitment because it signals stability. Stability tells him that the relationship is not just emotionally exciting, but emotionally safe. Safety is what allows him to invest more of himself, including his time, energy, and long-term plans. Trust also grows when a man feels understood rather than judged. Understanding does not mean agreeing with everything he does, but recognizing his intentions and listening to his perspective. When he feels heard, he feels respected, and respect strengthens trust. If he senses that his thoughts are dismissed or his feelings minimized, he may pull back emotionally because he interprets that response as a lack of acceptance. But when he sees that she genuinely tries to understand him, even during disagreements. He recognizes that she values him as a person, not just as a partner. That recognition deepens his emotional bond because it reassures him that the relationship is a place where he can be real rather than perform. Another element that strengthens trust is emotional honesty. Men often appreciate clarity more than guessing games. When a woman communicates openly about her feelings, expectations, and boundaries, he does not have to interpret hidden meanings or second-guess her intentions. Clear communication removes confusion, and removing confusion builds confidence. Confidence makes him more willing to commit because he feels certain about what he is stepping into. Uncertainty, on the other hand, makes him cautious. If he constantly has to question what she feels or what she wants, his mind stays alert instead of relaxed, and a guarded mind rarely allows deep love to settle. Trust thrives in transparency because transparency eliminates doubt. Past experiences also influence how quickly a man builds trust. If he has been hurt before, misled, or betrayed, he may approach new relationships with caution, even if he genuinely likes the person. This does not mean he expects history to repeat itself, but it does mean he values proof over promises. Patience becomes important because trust for him is not created instantly. It is constructed piece by piece through shared experiences. Each positive interaction adds another layer of confidence. Each honest conversation reinforces his belief. Over time, these layers become strong enough to support commitment, and once he reaches that point, his dedication can be remarkably steady. A man who trusts deeply often loves deeply because his guarded nature has been replaced with certainty. Trust also connects to loyalty in a powerful way. When he trusts a woman, he does not feel the need to test her or question her intentions. He becomes more relaxed, more affectionate, and more emotionally present because his energy is no longer spent on doubt. Instead of wondering whether she will stay, he begins planning how to stay with her. That mental shift from questioning to planning marks the moment when commitment starts forming. His focus moves from protecting himself to protecting the relationship. He becomes more attentive to her needs, more considerate in his actions, and more consistent in his presence because he now sees the connection as something valuable rather than uncertain. In many ways, trust acts as the bridge between interest and devotion. Interest might bring him close, but trust convinces him to remain. Devotion requires confidence that the person beside him is genuine, reliable, and emotionally safe. When he feels that certainty, commitment stops feeling like a risk and starts feeling like a choice he is proud to make. He does not feel pressured or trapped because his decision comes from assurance rather than fear. The relationship becomes a place where he can rest emotionally instead of defend himself emotionally. That sense of rest is rare and meaningful, and once he experiences it, he does not easily walk away from it. Trust gives him peace, and peace gives him the courage to commit with his whole heart, knowing that what he is building stands on a foundation strong enough to hold both his feelings and his future. A man falls when he sees a future, not just a moment, because for many men, love is not defined by intensity alone, but by direction. A moment can be exciting, beautiful, and unforgettable, yet still temporary. A future, however, represents stability, intention, and meaning. When a man begins to imagine tomorrow with a woman, instead of just enjoying today with her, something profound shifts inside him. His emotions move from curiosity to certainty, from attraction to attachment, from interest to investment. In that mental transition, love quietly begins to take root. It is not always dramatic or obvious, but it is powerful because it changes how he thinks, plans, and behaves. Instead of asking himself whether he likes her, he starts asking himself where this could go. That question marks the beginning of deeper feelings. Seeing a future with someone is not about fantasy alone. It is about compatibility, peace, and emotional alignment. A man might enjoy spending time with many people, but he only imagines a future with someone who makes life feel clearer rather than more complicated. When her presence brings calm to his thoughts, instead of confusion, he starts associating her with stability. Stability is deeply attractive because it signals that the relationship could last. Men often think in terms of long-term consequences, even if they do not openly admit it. When he senses that being with her could improve his life emotionally, mentally, and even practically, his feelings begin to deepen because he is no longer just reacting to the present. He is envisioning what life could look like if she remains beside him. This vision often appears subtly. He might notice himself thinking about her when making plans, wondering if she would enjoy certain places, or considering how she would fit into different parts of his life. These thoughts are important because they show that she is becoming part of his mental world. She is no longer separate from his future ideas. She is included in them. Inclusion is a strong emotional signal. It means his mind is no longer evaluating her as an option, but accepting her as a possibility. When that happens, his priorities begin to shift. He may start organizing his time differently, adjusting habits, or making decisions with her in mind. These changes usually occur naturally rather than by force because genuine feelings motivate him from within. Another reason the vision of a future matters so much is that it creates emotional security. When a man sees only the present, his feelings tend to remain light and flexible. He may care, but he does not anchor himself emotionally. However, when he sees a future, his mindset changes from temporary to permanent. Permanence encourages commitment because he begins to value what he has in a deeper way. He becomes more patient, more attentive, and more willing to work through challenges because he does not want to lose something he considers meaningful long term. The relationship stops feeling like an experience and starts feeling like a foundation. Foundations inspire effort because they represent something worth building upon. Imagining a future also awakens a man's protective instincts, not in a controlling sense, but in a caring sense. When he pictures her in his life long term, he naturally wants to protect her happiness, her trust, and the bond they share. This protective feeling strengthens his emotional attachment because it gives him a sense of purpose within the relationship. Purpose is important to many men because it aligns love with responsibility. Instead of simply enjoying her presence, he feels motivated to contribute to her well-being and to the health of the connection. That motivation deepens his feelings because effort and emotion often grow together. The more he invests, the more he values. The more he values, the stronger his love becomes. Moments can create sparks, but sparks alone cannot sustain a fire. A future is what fuels the flame over time. When a man sees long-term potential, he does not just feel excited, he feels certain. Certainty is calming. It removes doubt and hesitation. Without doubt, he becomes more open emotionally because he is no longer afraid that his feelings are misplaced. He begins to express himself more honestly, communicate more clearly, and show affection more freely. His consistency increases because his intentions have solidified. Instead of drifting emotionally, he becomes grounded. Grounded feelings tend to last because they are supported by thought as well as emotion. This shift also changes how he handles challenges. When a relationship is based only on moments, difficulties can feel like signs to leave. But when he sees a future, challenges feel like problems to solve together. His mindset moves from escape to endurance. He becomes willing to listen, compromise, and grow because he believes the connection is worth preserving. That willingness is one of the clearest signs that his feelings have deepened into real love. It shows that he values the relationship, not just for how it feels when things are easy, but for what it means in his life overall. Seeing a future with someone is ultimately about emotional recognition. It is the realization that she is not just someone he enjoys, but someone he wants beside him as life unfolds. That realization does not usually arrive in a single dramatic instant. More often it builds gradually through shared conversations, mutual understanding, trust, and comfort. Each positive experience adds another piece to the picture he is forming in his mind. Eventually that picture becomes clear enough that he no longer questions it. He simply knows. And when a man reaches that point, his love becomes steady, intentional, and deeply rooted because it is no longer tied to a passing moment, but to a vision of a life he genuinely wants to live with her by his side. Love grows when he feels valued, not pressured, because genuine emotional connection cannot thrive in an atmosphere of force or expectation. It flourishes in an environment where appreciation, patience, and acceptance quietly reassure him that he is wanted for who he is rather than pushed for what he must become. Many men respond more deeply to encouragement than to urgency, more openly to warmth than to demand, and more sincerely to appreciation than to pressure. When a man senses pressure, whether spoken or unspoken, his instincts often shift toward resistance. This does not mean he does not care. It means his mind interprets pressure as a loss of freedom, and emotional freedom is essential for his heart to open naturally. Feeling valued, on the other hand, has the opposite effect. It creates emotional safety, and safety allows affection to expand without fear. When he feels appreciated for his presence, his efforts, his personality, and even his imperfections, he begins to associate the relationship with comfort instead of stress. That association is powerful because people naturally move toward what feels good for their spirit. Value communicates acceptance, and acceptance is one of the deepest emotional needs a person can experience. When a man feels valued, he does not feel like he must constantly prove himself. Instead, he feels recognized. Recognition reassures him that he is enough as he is, not just when he achieves something or performs well. This reassurance encourages authenticity. He becomes more willing to show his real thoughts, his humor, his vulnerabilities, and his dreams because he trusts that they will be received with kindness rather than criticism. Authenticity strengthens emotional intimacy because it removes the need for masks. The more authentic he feels he can be, the more emotionally invested he becomes, and emotional investment is what allows love to grow roots instead of hovering on the surface. Pressure interrupts that process because it makes him self-conscious. Instead of being himself, he starts analyzing his words, measuring his actions, and worrying about whether he is meeting expectations. That mental tension blocks emotional flow. A pressured heart may still feel, but it does not relax enough to deepen those feelings. Appreciation also motivates effort in a way pressure never can. When a man feels valued, he wants to give more, not because he is told to, but because he desires to. Desire is a stronger motivator than obligation. Obligation can produce action, but desire produces devotion. If he senses that his gestures, time, and care are noticed and appreciated, he naturally feels encouraged to continue and even increase those efforts. This creates a positive emotional cycle. He gives, she appreciates, he feels valued, and he gives even more. Over time, this cycle strengthens his attachment because he associates the relationship with positive emotional reward. Pressure breaks that cycle because it replaces appreciation with expectation. Instead of feeling inspired, he may feel judged. Instead of feeling proud of what he gives, he may feel it is never enough. That perception can slowly drain his enthusiasm, not because he does not want to love, but because he feels his love is constantly being measured rather than cherished. Feeling valued also strengthens trust, which is essential for love to deepen. Trust grows when he believes his intentions are understood and his efforts are respected. When a woman expresses gratitude for the small things he does, listens to him attentively, and acknowledges his feelings, he interprets those actions as signs that she genuinely cares about him as a person. That belief makes him more emotionally open. Openness leads to vulnerability, and vulnerability is where deeper love forms. A man rarely opens his heart fully in an environment where he feels pressure to meet constant demands or timelines. Pressure can make him feel like he is being evaluated rather than embraced. Value makes him feel embraced rather than evaluated. This difference might seem subtle, but emotionally it is enormous because it determines whether he moves closer or pulls away. Another important aspect is that feeling valued gives him a sense of emotional significance. Every person wants to feel that their presence matters, that their existence has meaning in someone else's life. When he senses that his presence genuinely brightens her day or brings peace to her world, he feels significant. That sense of significance creates attachment because people grow attached to places where they feel important. Pressure undermines that feeling because it shifts the focus from appreciation to performance. Instead of feeling significant, he may feel insufficient. Insufficiency breeds hesitation, and hesitation prevents emotional depth. Value replaces hesitation with confidence. Confidence allows him to express affection more freely, to communicate more honestly, and to invest more willingly. The relationship becomes a place where he feels strong emotionally rather than uncertain. Love that grows from feeling valued tends to be steady because it is rooted in positive emotion rather than fear. Fear-based relationships might create urgency or intensity, but they rarely create lasting peace. Value-based relationships create calm certainty. When he feels valued, he does not question whether he should care. He simply cares. His loyalty strengthens because he wants to protect what makes him feel appreciated. His patience increases because he sees the connection as meaningful. His consistency improves because he wants to maintain the emotional environment that makes him feel respected and wanted. All of these changes happen naturally, not because he is instructed to behave a certain way, but because his feelings guide him there. Genuine love always grows more easily in an atmosphere of encouragement than in one of pressure. In the end, feeling valued tells a man that he is chosen, not chased, appreciated, not demanded, welcome, not forced. That emotional message is incredibly powerful because it reassures him that the relationship is a place of peace rather than pressure. Peace invites his heart to stay open. An open heart feels more, invests more, and loves more deeply. The more valued he feels, the more he associates the relationship with emotional comfort, and the more that comfort becomes essential to him. Over time, his feelings strengthen not through dramatic moments, but through steady reassurance that he matters. That quiet reassurance becomes the soil where lasting love takes root and grows stronger day by day as he continues to feel appreciated, respected, and genuinely treasured for who he is and for the love he willingly gives.